All right, creative people, elite designers from all over Africa, all over Nigeria. This is another beautiful episode with Mo. Well, she loves to be called Mo, Morenike, long form. And
Yeah.
I'll just let her, talk about herself. And she's here. You can see her. She's going to make her own introduction herself. But in today's episode, before she does that, we are going to be talking about brand alchemy. Well, we have the webinar in some couple of days and she'll be speaking powerfully. And this podcast is just to sustain you before and even after the webinar. So just grab your cup of coffee and, let's get started. So brand alchemy it is, and we're diving right in right away. So Mo, can you just tell us about yourself? And when I mean tell us about yourself, I mean your story, where you were coming from, where you are now, where you want to be, and, the things that got you into the creative space. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Morenike Olawolu Elizabeth, and short for Mo. That's how the Mo came about, just so you know. And I'm the creative director of the Bamboo Agency. So I studied international relations and diplomacy in Bowen University. And I know that you're wondering, how does international relations correlate with design or whatever this is? Oh, well, I don't know myself. I just found myself here. And how I started my journey was in 2020, where I just had my sister was focused on makeup. So I just wanted to help her out. So I told her to start a design challenge, a 10-day design challenge. And she was so scared to start because she didn't have ideas on what to do. And I was like, okay, I will help you come up with this concept and also help you edit the videos for you to post consistently. And it was a really rough part for me, but I was able to, I realized then and there that I actually had passion for creating stuff. And there I decided, okay, how about I delve into video editing? However, I realized shortly that I did not have all these tools for that. And I decided that, you know what, let me start with something that I have. I had like a HP laptop that I could start with. So I started learning how to design. And yeah, that's how this beautiful journey started. I know I'm not where I want to be. However, the journey is so far and wide. And what I imagine for myself is so big. I know that I really want to be way bigger than what I currently am. But yeah, that's a little bit about Morenike. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Super amazing. So that's Mo. You've met Mo. And one thing I can glean out from this story is that everybody's a creative. Remember, one of the very first things that we used to say when the business was still Femola Carado Design, and we still say that till now, is that everyone is a designer. But I think I can recraft it to say everyone is a creative. Everyone can create, right? So she came from international relations and diplomacy into the creative space, and she's doing marvelous exploits. So without further ado, let's jump into today's topic, and it's brand alchemy, right? Brand alchemy. In the white space, Elite Circle, the community part of the white space creativerse, we love doing very beautiful podcasts with deep names. The last one was Design Refraction, and now we are here with brand alchemy. And, we just decided that, we just thought about it. What can we use to describe conjoining things together to give life onto something?
Yeah.
And we just had that alchemy thing. So brand alchemy, as the name implies. So conjuring, life into a brand, or bringing, raw materials together to form a brand story, to form a brand. So I'm going to be throwing forth the first question. And the first question is, what is branding? I know that's the very first question everybody expects us to throw out, and I'm just going to do exactly that.
Yeah.
So what is branding?
Okay. Simply put, branding is the experiences that we get to feel with your brand. That's, in a short way, that's how I put branding. So it basically how the people experience and remember your business. For short.
Right. For short, how people experience and remember your business or you yourself. So I think I can glean out two words from that. Experience and remember. Experience and remember. Before we even dive deep into this, there was one time I was, really, really researching into branding, and I was like, okay, what really makes a good brand? And the truth is, there are a lot of things that make a good brand. Do you know that smell makes a good brand? Just imagine you enter a space and there's just this weird guy that just enters this place with a stench, like a body odor. The truth is, when you see him next, you would remember him by the smell. In fact, the sense of smell, let me put it that way, is one of the most powerful ways that you can remember an experience. You know, back then when I was growing up, anytime we went to an eatery and I entered Mr. Biggs, it's by the smell of the meat pie. I just, even if it's smelling outside Mr. Biggs, I think about Mr. Biggs because that smell is important. Yeah, so it gave me an experience, right? So just as she has said, it is what people remember you by. Basically how people experience and remember you or your business. So so Mo, we've gotten to the part of misconceptions. You know, we've spoken about what branding is. And the very first question I'm going to ask you is, what is the biggest misconception that you think people have when they hear the word branding? You know.
Okay. So for me, the biggest misconception when people hear branding is them misinterpreting branding or brand identity for visual identity. Visual identity is how your brand looks. It's your logo, your brand color, typography. And I feel like that is not what the brand identity is or branding is. And a lot of people like misinterpret that for branding.
Okay, so brand identity is different from visual identity. So again,
visual identity is just an element from brand identity.
From brand identity. So if somebody says, can you help me create a brand identity for my product or for myself or for my business? Guys, remember, it's not the logos and the colors alone, right? It's an encompassing process of how the brand will feel, the target audience, the colors, the visual hierarchy, typography usage, photography usage, the language of the brand, that's the brand language, the brand essence, all those things. That is your okay. So let's quickly address this logo and branding, because we will definitely have non-designers listening to this episode. Yes. So how would you explain the difference between a logo, right, and branding to a non-designer? Because a lot of people say, I need you to brand me, and the first thing that comes to their mind is logo. And when you tell them, okay, branding is, for instance, X million naira, that's how much I'm going to take for it, they'll be like, is it not branding? Is it not just logo? So what and how would you explain? Yeah, it's not just logo. Like, I don't like that just thing. So how would you explain the difference between brand and logo to a non-designer?
Okay, first things first, I feel like the reason why a lot of people think the logo is branding is because the logo is the most visible part of your brand. So that's why there might be like a confusion around the difference between branding and logo design. However, logo is like the most recognizable part of your brand. It is the most memorable part of your brand as well. It's what people can see. Maybe the first thing that it gets in contact with. That's what a logo is. It's a symbol that is memorable, recognizable. That is the work of the logo. However, branding, like I mentioned earlier on, is how your brand feels like, how your brand sounds like, the experiences people get from your brand itself. A lot of other factors when we're talking about branding, but the logo is just a recognizable symbol of your brand.
Thank you very much. I love your short and precise and apt answers. So it's just a mark. That's it. That's your logo. Your logo is not the entire brand. You know, we're tired of people saying, a brand is not the logo. They've oversaid that thing, and I don't want to hear it again, but it's the truth. But I don't want to hear that. So it leads me to the next question. But I think you already inadvertently answered the next question that says that, why do so many businesses stop at creating a logo and think they are branded? It's just because that's the first thing people see. It's the mark, and they think that's
part of your brand.
One of the most visible parts of the business. I mean, or of yourself. So, so one very crucial question, because some people think otherwise, but I have a school of thought. Can a business, right, survive with just logo? But no clear branding? Remember, survive is the main word. Can they survive? I just have a logo, but I don't have a clear branding. Is it possible?
I believe that every business can thrive without branding. That's a very clear statement. However, you are now left to compete based off of your price. You are left to compete based off of the convenience that you bring to the table and all of those things. So we're not factoring the fact that, I like this brand for so reason. We're going to be looking, okay, which one is the cheaper alternative? Which one is closer to my house? That is what you have left your brand to become. What is most convenient, what is most affordable, and all of that. So now people are not purchasing from you because they have a personal experience with your brand. And that is what it is. So your business can thrive without any of this, of course. But your business is also very volatile. So yeah, that's that.
So your business can just thrive with with logos and visual identity. That's all. But your business will not survive without branding. Your business will just be left on the ordinary. Okay, let's get this because it's comfortable, it's closer. Not, I want to get this because the experience is beautiful. The experience is memorable, right? So, yeah. And yes, we've also answered the role that branding or brand plays memorability. And it plays the role of, longevity in a business, right? So, okay, so let me just, go down to probably the next, I just want this to be very fast. And so one of the questions is that what are the common mistakes, right, that people make when they are probably building visual identities, or let me say when they are designing a logo for their business? Like one or two of the common mistakes that people make.
The common mistake. Okay, so one of the most common mistakes, this one is a very interesting topic for me. One of the most common mistakes is making your logo. I don't know if you're talking about logo, the visual identity, or just or branding entirely. But for visual identity, I'll talk about one element, which is the logo design. Making your logo too literal. Number two, people are not daring enough. So now for food brand, we know that yellow are mostly used for food brands, and it's a great thing that people already acknowledge this. I feel like because we are following the norm too much, someone might even want to say, okay, Ajoke eats, or Ashake something that just correlates with the type of brand that it is. So your logo is too literal. The name of your brand does not have any defined meaning aside from what you are currently serving. You do not consider the fact that your brand can change or can adapt to a lot of other things in the next 5-10 years. So these are the common mistakes I feel like people make with visual identity in general.
So people don't think long term when they are naming their businesses. So like you said, too literal. Ajoke, it's Sheon Designs, Sheon Cooks, Sheon Designs. If you check the naming convention in Whitespace Elite Circle and Whitespace Creativeverse, because the creative industry is, very, very, like, how do I put it now? You can't exhaust it, inexhaustible, right? We have a lot of, things from coding to writing codes to building apps to designs to animations to 3D, website design, whatever it is. Whitespace Creativeverse will never be limited by the name. It is Whitespace Creativeverse.
Yes.
It's not Whitespace Designs. For example, your agency cannot be, boxed, right? Because that word agency alone is all encompassing. So it is very important to know that as much as you still want to serve the things that you still want people to know you by the things that you are serving them, also don't be too literal. What about the place of being too literal in the visual element, like your logo? For example, some people will tell you that because I sell food, there must be an element of food in my logo. Or because I make designs, there must be an element of design. Because I do one thing, there must be an element of that thing in what I'm doing. So how do you design visual identity for this kind of things? If a customer is saying I must have those things.
Okay, so first things first, before any project is even started, you have to have conversations with this person. So you have like an idea on who you are talking with or who you are about to work with. So if you know that this person is now willing to bend to whatever, or you guys cannot work or collaborate together, you can decide to take your L or maybe you just want to make the money fast and quick good for you. However, there are 3 things I like you to focus on whenever you're creating for businesses or for yourself or people, rather, individuals. Number 1, your own ideas. What do you think is good for this business? Number 2, the business owner's point of view. What do you think is great for their businesses, for their business? And lastly, the consumer. What the consumers actually need. So now, if you have been able to, if you can fit all of this into your answer or the solution rather into all of this, great for you. If you want to make it literal and that's what the client wants and it's not going to affect the business, no problem. But if it is going to affect the business, it's going to affect them long term, then you can advise otherwise. Or you can choose not to work with such businesses.
Yes, because there are some projects you should just not work with to preserve your own brand and your reputation.
Let them, yes. Let them meet people that work on it for them.
Okay, so speaking about this, category of clients, I mean small businesses. So the question is that how can they, evolve with a limited budget, or let me put it this way. For a small business, right? How can they invest in branding with a small budget? Do they just go with logo, or do they just, find that money and just, I'm going all in for this branding? So how can they do that?
Okay, so one way you can do this, I don't always believe that when you start, you have everything figured out. That's a very big lie. One thing you can do is, do you understand your brand? Who you are selling to, your product, all of that. If you don't understand any of these things, you cannot even start with any branding. You cannot reach out to any designer or agency to work with you. You yourself personally, you have to understand every of these things. Then maybe reach out to one designer to help you with the littlest things like the visual identity that I've mentioned earlier on. As long as you know what your brand is selling, who they are targeting, your brand purpose and all of that, yes, then you are good to go. Then maybe you can have one logo that someone creates for you and everything. You can eventually evolve moving forward as long as there are some things that are already existing, very necessary things that are already existing, like all the things I've earlier stated.
All right, so find the lowest hanging fruit that can work for you and just go with that first until you have, more money. That's why there's room for growth. As a small business, there's always room for growth. Okay, so if branding is more than the logo, what other key elements make up a strong brand identity?
Okay. Some key elements that I like to work with. Number 1 is the visual identity, which I mentioned is the face of the brand. And that consists of the logo, colors, typography, visual assets, and all of that good stuff. Then we have the visual language, how the brand sounds like, the tone of voice, messaging, and all of that. Then we have the brand strategy. Brand strategy is basically the purpose of the brand, the positioning, the brand values, and all of that good stuff. Then we have the customer's experience, how the people, the consumers interact with your brand, with the individual, and all of that. So yes, these are like the key things that top of mind, things that a brand needs, or like brand identity, what is essential for the brand identity.
Yes, and I haven't heard that people, you need to understand that branding is not your visual identity. Again, it's been oversaid, and I'm gonna say it again. And when an experienced professional designer says that I'm gonna craft you a brand, it is not just the logo. It is not just your colors. It's not just your typeface. It is everything all encompassing that makes you, that makes your business your business. And the truth is, branding is not built over 2 months. It's not built over a short time. It's a lifetime thing. And of course, my own summary of branding is your reputation building. Brand is your reputation, right? It is what people say of you when you're not there. It is what people say of you when you are not in the room. Morenike is this, Morenike is that, Femi is this, Femi is that. That is branding. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be about making money, right? In fact, it doesn't even have to be about your visual, your appearance. It can be about what people experience when they meet you. In fact, that's what it's all about. And then the other things that are visual, then comes with it. If Femi if Femi talks too much, or Femi, speaks very vulgar words, that would be Femi's brand, because they know Femi as someone that speaks vulgar words, right? Vulgar words. And at the end of the day, it's now exactly at the end of the day now speaks to the fact that, okay, this person may be handsome, this person may know how to, run from one place. It may be a giver or whatever, but he speaks vulgar, and that reflects strongly in the minds of people. It reflects strongly in the mind of people. So Mo, how would I put it this way now? What has been one of the challenges in working with brands, in working with people, and also in your growth? Like, what are the challenges, and what role have these challenges played in your growth?
Okay, I have a very good story for this. I worked with a brand 3 years ago when I just started my design career, and I made a couple of mistakes with this. I didn't have a lot of things to shape or guide me. I didn't have the structure to put it in one word. And I worked with this brand. I didn't send any contract, nothing to guide anything or to protect me. And she told me, okay, this is what I want. First things first red flag. I did not jump. I did not have any discovery call, no intake forms, nothing to put in place. And I just went off with what she said, and I created what she actually asked me to do. And after doing this, she came back and said, this is not what I want. And it was just a lot of back and forth. And at some point, I started getting emotionally and mentally drained from the whole situation, because it was a day's conversation whereby I kept refining this particular design to our tastes, but she was not liking what I was creating. And at a point, she made a statement. She said something around, you are not creative or something like that. I can't remember. And that word really hits me very hard. And one thing as a creative, always protect your space, always protect your peace. So from that moment, I just said, you know what? Please, I will refund every single thing. I don't even want 5 naira from this whole situation. Take it. I don't want any money from this. I messed up here, so I'm going to work on my process. I'm not going to allow this situation repeat itself. So because of that situation, I refunded the money I made lost from that situation. And I made sure from that moment, I first spiked, I increased my price because I was scared of pricing people that time. And I made sure I increased my price so that I avoid such clients moving forward. So that was the first thing I did. Number 2, I made sure that my structure was very, very tight. I had contracts, contract agreements. I had invoices. I made sure I always did either intake forms or discovery calls with every client. So it just tightened my process. I feel like it was a great experience for me to have, even though it was such a bad experience in that time. But looking in hindsight, it was such a great experience that helped me and shaped who I am today.
Wow. All she just explained is the summary of whatever it is we've been talking about in the past few months in our podcast. Contracting, your mental health, creating boundaries, burnout, and all those stuff. It is very important, right? For me too, at some early stages in my career, I fell into that trap. In fact, there is a client on my table right now, and after the entire discovery call and everything, probably this person just thinks I'll just start the project and everything, but I didn't start the project. The next thing I did was to forward you your quote, right? This is the amount of money we'll take for this project. Also, one of the very few things I learned is early in career is, just don't run proposals for people anyhow. That's your time, right? Probably if you just don't do proposals anyhow. In fact, I learned that also from Chris Du. I learned it because I follow him a lot. And that was one of the things I said, it makes sense actually, because it's just like I am, wasting my time creating a document, even though it's a template, just to give you that may not be interested in my service. So before I run a proposal, I make sure that we've spoken, there's discovery call, there's this and that. And then you say, okay, I think I'm willing to work with you. And even send you an invoice, a quote. And then you say, fine with the price. And then I prepare my proposal to say, this is how the things I want to do would look like. And then after that, we spring into action, right? So it is very important to also have contracts. If you've not listened to the podcast about contracting. That was the last, I think, previous 2 episodes. You should listen to it if you are on this very one. So, okay, let me see. Okay, so now, Mo, you've already told us how the challenges have, helped shape you. The truth is, challenges, if you look at challenges from a very different angle, they help build you and become a better version of you. I'm very sure Mo will never, ever approach a client without contract at this stage. I'm very sure you never do that. So let me just put some fire in the house. And it's AI and branding. Some people think that they can use AI to generate logo and from there build a brand. So what's your take on it? That will designers lose their job with the advent of AI? So what do you think?
Okay. AI can do the basic, create logos. We can do things here and there to aid our system or our process. However, AI cannot create meaning. And as opposed to a lot of people's belief that AI is coming to steal your job, I feel like AI is coming to aid your job. And if you see it from that perspective, it is going to help your business go far and wide. From the beginning or the inception of when they started this AI conversation, I have been friendly to understand what it is about and how it can help my business instead of how it can take away from me or any of that. So AI is here to aid us or help us rather to scale or to become better. Do you understand what I mean? So I don't believe that AI is here to steal from anybody because AI can definitely not create meaning. Human beings are very creative. Our minds are capable of creating a lot of things. And AI is capable of stealing some of the things that we're creating, but it cannot steal things from us. I don't know if that makes sense. If we are open to globalization or transformation, then obviously AI cannot steal anything from you. But if you want to do things the same way over and over for years to come, definitely you are going to be swept away off the carpet.
Wow. That's another light, and that's beautiful. Before I ask the last questions and probably your recommendations, I'd like to also weigh in on that. The truth is this. There was a time that graphic designers were drawing and painting on paper. They paint posters, right, for events. And with the advent of, with the invention of, this digital software, Photoshop and the likes, Illustrator, then CorelDRAW, Inkscape, whatever software, people started using the computer. And the ones that were like, nah, I can't use the computer, they are where they are. See, they were forced to, so it's either you are forced to learn AI or you are forced to be behind everybody in the world.
As human beings, we must learn to evolve with time, changes. Things change every single day. And if you are not evolving with time, you'll be left behind.
Yes, we must learn to evolve or else you'll be left behind. And, talking about evolving, there are some things that are called repetitive tasks that you should rid yourself of as a creative person, right? And move on to things that are challenging just to help us reduce repetitive tasks and minor issues, minor tasks so that you get things running fast. So AI is supposed to help enhance your work. It's not supposed to come replace you. And if you think it's going to replace you, if you're scared, that means you need to work on yourself and make sure that you own and, have your skill well groomed, right? So that's about that. So one more thing before we run, and it is storytelling and branding, right? We've not mentioned storytelling. Storytelling, people have different definitions of storytelling, but storytelling is storytelling. You tell a story with a brand, you tell a story with a live, with a video, with a picture, whatever. And, I was watching a podcast like this on YouTube, and Seth Godin was saying something else about storytelling. And I was like, this man, his mind is so storytelling is important, but not everybody know how to tell a story. But also storytelling is simple, but it's also complex at the same time. So how important is storytelling in branding, and how do you tell stories with your brand? Those are the questions I'm throwing out to you now, Mo. How important is storytelling in branding, and how do you tell stories with your brand?
Okay, so first things first, storytelling is the heartbeat of branding, and one of the frameworks I resonate with is that of Donald Miller when he talks about storytelling. And in I think his book, Story Brand, Building a Story Brand. First things first, there's always a character. You are not the character. The consumer or the customers, rather, are the heroes. That's the first thing you should know. Then they meet a guide that helps them to solve a problem. You are the guide that helps your consumer or your customers solve this problem. And the guides give them a plan, and the guides give them a call to action that leads them to success. So now when you apply this to branding, you shift the focus away from making yourself or the brand the star and actually position your brand as a guide to help consumers succeed. When you are able to mix all of this together, we have a lot of things that we have mentioned about branding and how we are different parts of branding. When you have the ability to be able to connect all of this together, you have to carry out research for you to be able to be a good storyteller. As opposed to a lot of people, it does not just come to you. You have to be a good researcher, and your ability to make something out of your research, make your research make sense, connect the dots together, is your ability to create a good story, using a great story in branding.
Thank you very much. So, ability to create a great story in branding. And one of the ways to create a great story in branding is make sure you have a start point and an end point. And between the start point and end point, there is an experience your customers would have. Right. That's why people, have promos. They will do promos. Some people will say scratch and win. For example, the Coke campaign then that had people's names on the bottles, and they will say buy this bottle. That has an entire story, and they created ads for that. And when we're talking about storytelling, it's even more tilted towards marketing. You are telling a story. And if don't be shocked that some people don't have Instagram handles or social media presence, and they are cashing out. Why? Because they know how to tell stories. It's not everybody on social media that is making money. Yeah. So, and storytelling, maybe part of it, maybe your short reels and stuff, but storytelling is an all-encompassing part of branding and marketing. And it's important as creative guys to be able to tell stories. For instance, every month we tell stories with, we told a story with this brand Alchemy. We started from the beginning of the month, and we're like, okay, we want to walk you through the entire month to make you understand what branding is. To what end? To the webinar, to the end, so that you would understand. And then from one part to the other, you join the community, and we help you grow, and you become more comfortable and convenient and confident in what skill you have or possess. So storytelling, there's no like straight jacketed, formula to say, okay, this is the story you must tell, but let it come to you naturally, and strategically work that story in order to serve the hero, which in this time is your customer. So Mo, before we call it a wrap, what final advice do you want to give to graphic designers, entrepreneurs, creative guys that are confusing branding with logo? What advice you want to give them, and what insights do you have for people?
Okay, so I think one thing I would like to say is your logo can obviously open the door. Like I mentioned, it's the most visible part of your brand. So your logos can open the door, your visual identity can open the door, but your brand experience, your brand identity is what keeps you in the room. So I need you to think beyond just creating logos, creating colors, doing all of that good stuff, and focus on creating an experience, creating a feeling that will make people even want to act differently because of you or because of your brand. So yes, that's the last advice I would like to give regarding branding. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mo, for joining us in the studio this time. And yes, just to add to what she said, it's important that that branding is what keeps you in the room. Branding is what keeps you in the room. Whether you are an individual, whether you are a business, what experience can people remember from interacting with you? That is your brand. Remember that brand is your reputation, and brand is what you create over time by using words, by using actions, by using visual elements, by using smell, right? All the physical senses, by using touch, right? Branding is important. Anything you do. If you are a singer, let them tell you that your voice is Let it be distinct, that your voice is, describable. Oh, it has a high pitch and sings sonorously. And this, if you are a designer, oh, this person, this is the style he uses. He has this color theme and he has that. And so those are the things. And oh, this person, once you walk into their store, there's just this smell that is amazing. Those are the things. I mean, little things. Branding is in the little things. So thank you guys for joining us again on this beautiful podcast episode. Mo, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your thoughts with us on branding. We will see each other in the webinar. And, if you're going to be listening to this podcast after the webinar, you can always roll back to hear Mo and I speak about brand alchemy, the things that you bring together to make branding effective and to make your reputation what people want to experience over and over again. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mo, and have a blast.